Alright, we'll start with DNS. So DNS stands for Domain Name System, and this system is responsible for translating an IP address into a web address. For example, if we ask you to say some website names, you will say Amazon, Flipkart, Facebook, Twitter, and there are many other websites which we'll be able to remember, right? I'm sure that every one of you will be able to write at least some 20 to 30 web addresses, website names, right? And but at the same time, if I ask you to write the IP address of each and every website, uh, will you be able to remember anything? I'm sure you will not be able to write even one website's IP address because we don't there is no need for us to remember those web addresses, the IP addresses, because we are much more comfortable with remembering the names rather than the numbers, right? So that is based the, so that is possible because of DNS. Okay, so DNS is the one that actually stores this sort of information, and it maps the web address with the IP address. All right. So let us see how this DNS functions. Okay. So first of all, when your PC is trying to access, so suppose if your PC, first let us see how a PC accesses internet. Okay. So when you type some website, like let us assume that it is you are typing google.com. Okay. When you type google.com, the request will be sent to the DNS server. So the DNS server, what it does is it will translate the google.com's IP address, and it will give you an IP address in this dot decimal notation, and that information will be sent to the PC. So this PC will again send a request to google.com with the help of this IP address. Okay, so whatever you're typing, right? If you're typing the google.com or facebook.com, the request does not goes directly to that particular uh, website. First, it will go to the DNS server, and the DNS server is the one that is responsible for translating the domain name. So this is called the domain name. The domain name into the IP address, and now your PC will send the IP address, the request to the IP address that has been already processed by the DNS. So that is how internet works. Okay. Now let us see this in much more detail. Okay. So first, let me clear this thing. Okay. So now your PC will have two locations. One is the host file. Okay. The second one is the DNS cache. So whenever you type any website, for example, let us assume that you are typing youtube.com. Okay. So when you type youtube.com, immediately it will contact the DNS server, and the DNS server will respond back with the IP address. When the DNS server has responded with the IP address, that information will be updated in DNS cache. So your PC will hold the IP address of the website which you have tried to reach, and so that this uh, this website, this web address, right, the youtube.com which you are trying to access, when you are trying to access the same website after some time, it will not raise a DNS request again because the DNS address is all the domain name address is already there in the DNS cache. So with the DNS cache, will be able to give you the IP address to which you have to contact the youtube.com website. So that is one way where you can try to reach the website without even contacting the DNS server. So that is possible with the help of DNS cache. So this can be this DNS cache is, as the name specifies, it is a cache memory. Okay, it is not a permanent storage. It is only a cache memory. So the frequently contacted websites will be stored in DNS cache for some period of time, and that period of time is again a configurable parameter. So I'm not no, I'm not going to tell you it will stay only for this much of seconds or minutes. So it is a configurable parameter that can be configured based on the requirements. Okay, so if you want to see the various website that has been cached under DNS, you can use this command, that is ipconfig slash display DNS without any space. Okay, so when you type ipconfig/display DNS, so this has to be given in the command prompt. So when you give this command, it will show you the list of websites that is already captured. Okay, and one more thing is the host file. So host file is the one, you know, that is the primary point of checking. Okay, so when you type youtube.com, immediately it will check in the host file. So it will try to see if an entry for youtube.com is there on the host file. Okay, so if an entry is not found, then it will go to the DNS cache. Then it will go to the DNS server. So that is how it works. So host file, it is a file that is available within the PC, and this can be accessed by a path. Usually it is like, it is available under C:, system 32, I believe, drivers, etc. So under this folder you will find the host file. There's a file called host. There will be a file called host, and if you can open it with the help of Notepad. And if you open the host file, you can make manual entries in the host file. For example, suppose if you are running a website, you can create an entry for your website on the host file, so that whenever you type your website name, your PC will not generate a DNS request. It will immediately check in the host file and it will figure out that the entry is there already. So it will find out the IP address that is found on the entry, and it will go to that website directly. So that is one way of speeding up the process. So if at all, if you have decided that you are going to visit a particular website for some continuously for the next 1 year, right? So in that case, you can make an entry for that particular website on the host file, so that whenever you type that particular domain name, your PC will never generate the DNS request. It will straight away go to that particular website with the help of the entry that is found in the host file. Also, this host file can be also used for blocking access to certain websites. For example, let us assume that it is a PC that is used for studies for your kids. Okay, and you are very concerned about your kids visiting facebook.com. Let us assume like that. Okay, so if you want to block access to facebook.com, you need not rely on any third-party software like firewall and all, firewall, antivirus, whatever it is. Okay, you need not or you panel control settings. So some softwares will help you to do that set of settings, right? But a simple method is, what you can do is you can open up the host file, just create an entry for facebook.com, right? And create an entry facebook.com, and this is the actual format. Just type the name of the web address, leave a space, and type the IP address. That's it. So when such an entry is found, whenever you type facebook.com, it will look for this particular IP address. So as I am telling you to a way to block access to Facebook, what you can do is you can simply replace this IP address with 127.0.0.1. So what is 127 address? It is a loopback address, right? It is a loopback address. So loopback address are generally used for checking the internal NIC cards, or not only internal. It can be used to check the NIC cards, to check whether the network interface card is working or not. So it is an internal command. Okay. So when you type facebook.com as 127.0.0.1, your PC, the request will never even go out of your PC, so that this particular website will be unreachable for for that particular PC. Okay. Not only facebook.com, you can have a number of entries for the same IP 127.0.0.1. So whenever you type that particular web address, it will immediately go to uh, that particular loopback address. And loopback address is not meant for connecting to internet. So obviously you won't be able to access the internet on that particular machine. Okay, not internet as a whole. At least those particular entries which is found in the host file. Okay. So host file is the first point of contact, and DNS cache is the second point of contact. Whenever you type any web address, if an entry is found already in host file, then it will not go to the next level. If an entry is not found, then it will go to the next level. Then even here, if the entry is not found, if an entry is found, it will work with that. If an entry is not found, again it will go to the next level, which is the DNS servers. Okay, so DNS servers usually will be located at the ISP side in case of a normal internet connection which you get from the ISP. Okay, so then the request will go to the DNS server. From there, it will be taken care by the other service providers. Okay, now let us see. Now let us see a situation where there is no entry found in host file as well as in DNS cache. Okay, so let us assume that you are trying to connect to some website which you have not at all connected so far. Let us assume that it is a newly built website and you are trying to connect to this website for the very first time. Okay, I'm going to name this website like uh, what we can say. Uh, okay, I'm going to name this website as abc.com. Okay, I'm going to try to connect to this website abc.com, and I know that this website was recently built, which means this website is developed by me, and it is not available. It is just launched. Okay, they just made available to the internet so that anyone can access. I'm sure that with abc.com, it is not a famous website like Google or Facebook, so no one would have visited this website at all before this, right? Okay, the same situation here. My PC has not visited this website abc.com so far, and I'm trying to visit abc.com. So my PC, what it does, it will first look in the host entry not found. Next, it will check in the DNS cache. Will there be any entry? No, entry not found. Next, it will send the request to the DNS server. So where is the DNS server? The DNS server will be with the who will be responsible for handling the maintaining the DNS server? Your ISP. Okay, so that DNS server is called as DNS resolver. So usually ISP will have this DNS resolver. So now my request that abc.com has gone as a request to DNS resolver. This DNS resolver, right? This DNS resolver will have entries that is made by all the subscribers for this particular ISP. Suppose let us assume that this ISP is Vodafone. Then if Vodafone has got some 1 million customers who are accessing internet, then all the 1 million requests, all the 1 million users request would have been passed through this, okay, through this DNS resolver. So this DNS resolver will have n number of entries, and as I told you that this is a newly built website, none of the users would have tried to reach this website. So there will be definitely no entries found. So in case if there was an entry or that was already present, then this DNS resolver will respond back with the IP address of abc.com to the to my machine. But in my case, this is a newly built website, so there is no way that DNS resolver knows what this website is. So what happens here is this DNS resolver will contact the next level, which is the topmost level, that is called as root DNS. Okay, so this root DNS server, this is the one that can handle requests from any DNS resolvers throughout the world. And we have root DNS servers are located at various regions. So for a country, I believe that there are some 2 or 3 root DNS when India is concerned, and depends upon the country size. The number of root DNS servers may vary. So now the request from the Vodafone DNS resolver has gone to the root DNS server. So root DNS server, it is maintained by a consortium. Okay, it is not owned by any particular ISP. It is maintained by a consortium. It is a consortium where most of the companies, many companies joins together, and they build a common server. Okay. So root DNS is the one which is the topmost level, and the request has gone to root DNS now. So the request for abc.com has gone to root DNS. Now the root DNS server, what it does is it will find out that it is a .com domain. So abc.com, correct? So root DNS the root DNS server will read the domain name, and it will find out that it is a .com domain. The root DNS server will find out that it is a .com domain, and so what this root DNS does is the root DNS will respond back to the DNS resolver by stating that it is a .com domain, and I know I don't have an entry for .com, but I know who is the top level domain for .com. So it will respond back with a particular IP address of the top level domain. Right? Okay, the top level domain's IP will be shared by the root DNS server to the resolver. Now this PC will contact the top level domain of, which is the .com's top level domain, the TLD. Okay, the top level domain of .com. Okay, like .com, we have .in, .co, .uk, .co, .in, .edu, .org, .us, .uk. There are many other top level domains. Okay, so likewise, now based on the extensions, there are n number of top level domains. So this root DNS can identify only to the domain to which this particular IP address belongs to, this particular domain name belongs to. So it has responded back with the IP address of the top level domain, and now the PC has connected to the, now the resolver has connected to the top level domain with the help of the IP that has been shared by the root DNS. Okay, so it will contact top level domain and it will ask for abc.com's IP address. Okay, so top level domain, this TLD will not have the actual DNS entry, but they know where this particular domain name is hosted, because that information alone will be stored by the top level domain. So it will respond back with the actual authoritative name server's IP address. So that particular information will be shared by the top level domain. So now this DNS resolver will contact the authoritative name server. Okay, authoritative name server is the one who has actually hosted this ABC website, and this authoritative name server will also have an entry for abc.com. Okay, so abc.com is hosted on this particular server, and so this server will know what is the actual IP. Okay, so now this DNS resolver has requested a authoritative name server for the IP address of abc.com. And how did this resolver got this ANS authoritative name server's IP? With the help of top level domain, because top level domain has shared the IP of authoritative name server, just like the root DNS shared for the top level domain. Okay, so now the request has gone to authoritative name server, and the authoritative name server already has the entry in it, so it will share the IP address to the DNS. So the IP address, which is the answer for the query. So the DNS query has been resolved by the authoritative name server. Now this IP address will reach the DNS resolver. So what this DNS resolver does is it will update in its database, so that if anyone else tries to contact the same website again, it will simply direct them to x.x.x, the IP address, the corresponding IP address. Okay. Now the DNS resolver has updated its database, and now it will respond back to the PC with the IP address x.x.x.x, whatever the IP address. Okay. So once the response came in, immediately the DNS cache will get updated, so that by the next time when you try to contact abc.com, the request can be resolved by the DNS cache itself. Okay. So now this PC has got the web address, the IP address of the domain name abc.com. Now this PC will send a request to abc.com web server. So now the web address is known. So the PC will send a request to the abc.com web server. Now this web server will send a response back to the PC. So this is how normally works. So this is the reason why, when you are trying to open some new web pages, it will take some time to get loaded, depending upon your broadband speed. Whereas, if you are trying to open up some web pages which are frequently accessed, you will not find such a delay, because this process is bypassed, right? So this entire process is bypassed by that time, because already the answer will be there on the DNS cache itself. So immediately your PC can send the request directly to the web server, bypassing all these steps. So this is the reason behind why the website is taking. Sometimes the website may take some long time to get loaded. All right. So this is how DNS works, and these are the queries. This is the query model which the DNS generally uses. Okay.